Welcome to Maria's Kitchen Tales. I'm going to show you a recipe from one of the books in our collection called Trejo's Tacos, Recipes and Stories from LA. Danny Trejo with Hugh Garvey wrote this book, and if you recognize Danny, he is a movie star that's very famous, and he's been in over 300 films. And he turns out to be a great chef, and he actually talks about not just food and not just recipes, but he even has like a list of what you should have in your pantry. He talks about different cuts of meat. So he really knows food really well and what's a fun way to cook it. And so he talks also about his life in this book. And Danny Trejo grew up in California. He was in and out of prison, and he had a drug addict. He was a drug addict, and he would steal. He would do all kinds of things, he said. And when he was in prison, the last stint he had, he was able to get clean and sober. When he did that, he decided that he would always turn his life around, and he would always become a person helping others. And so he became a drug counselor. And his journey as a drug counselor, which he still does, led him to Hollywood, and he ended up becoming an actor through that. So I won't spoil it for you. He'll tell you how he did that. But one thing that was really important to him growing up about food was his mother. And his mother was the person that was always there for him, always accepted him even when he was a bad kid or a bad adult, that she was always there. And they would always talk about owning a restaurant one day. They would joke about it. And so, you know, that never happened. But when he was working on a film, one of the film producers told him that he needed to open a restaurant. He saw that he had this real appreciation for food, and so he went into business with Danny, and now they have 8 restaurants in California, and they have some really interesting recipes in here, and the restaurant's called Trejo's Tacos, and they have everywhere from donuts to all kinds of things in here. And so you should really check it out, because there's a lot of fun recipes in here that I think you'll enjoy. He also talks about what kind of pantry you should have, and different cuts of meat, those kinds of things. So he knows his food. So I just wanted to talk about carnitas, because that is the recipe I chose to cook for you today. And carne in Spanish is meat, and carnitas is little meats. That's really what it's called, and it's always made out of pork. So he has the recipe for 5 pounds of boneless pork shoulder cut into cubes, and then he wants you to get a 12-ounce package of sliced bacon, and you're going to use a tablespoon of black pepper, 2 teaspoons of ground cumin, 2 teaspoons of dried chili de árbol or the dried red pepper flakes, 1 teaspoon of dried oregano, 2 teaspoons of kosher salt, and 1 dried bay leaf. And so he wants, the thing about pork is you really do have to cook it well. So in this book, he's showing you how to cook it twice. And so the first way to cook it is you're going to preheat the oven to 350. You're going to have a big Dutch oven or a big pot, and it's over medium-high heat. You put the oil in there, you heat it, and then for about 2 minutes, then you add the pork shoulder and the bacon. It's a lot of bacon. And then you cook until the pork is browned on both sides and the bacon is starting to render its fat. And that's about 10 minutes. Then you add all the herbs and spices and about 4 cups of water. And you're going to bring the water to a boil, and then you're going to put that pot uncovered in the oven, and you're going to turn the the roast over like every 30 minutes and for about 2 hours. And so that's definitely to make sure that that pork is cooked fully through. But it's also the reason why you do that is you want, because it's little meats, carnitas, you want your meat to be super tender and you want it to be just falling apart. And so you can do it the way Danny did with heating it up on the stove and then baking it in the oven and turning it that way. Or you know, if it's 100 degrees outside, which it is right now in Pueblo, so I decided to put it in the crock pot and I cooked it for about 6 hours. So the crock pot is kind of an easy way to do it because you don't heat up your kitchen too much when it's hot out. But it's a great thing with pork because it really gets it all tender. And so right now I'm going to show you the next step with carnitas is you're going to be frying it. And so because you have so much meat, you're going to be frying it in batches because you want your meat to be really tender. So that's what I have going on here. And so this meat is the meat I cooked earlier, and it has all those spices. It was cooked with the bacon. One thing is he wants when you're finished cooking with the first time around, you just go ahead and throw away the bacon. The bacon was just used for flavor. And so you do that. And so I've got that going on, and that's your carnitas. Really, you want it to be loose. You want it to be kind of just toasty and brown. And there's something about carnitas that everybody that's had them loves them, and they always go back to them. There was a restaurant in Mexico I'd go to that was famous for their carnitas. People would drive several hours just to get their carnitas. And they were a wonderful restaurant, and they would have, in my opinion, the best carnitas ever, and I've never found any that were as good as theirs. So I don't know what their specialty was, but they were a family that ran it for over 30 years, and so when they retired, everybody cried because carnitas are kind of a special treat, and if you can get them just right, then that's just something really special. So I've got this going on, but I wanted to show you, in the book he talks about not just carnitas, but what you can do with carnitas. And he has recipes for carnitas tacos, for burritos, and carnitas bowls. So he'll show you how to make a dish for a meat dish and then how you can prepare it for different dishes. So I am going to show you how to make with the carnitas tacos because that's usually how I've always had them. And so one thing which I've never had is he does this special vinegared onions. And so his goal is to have red onions in his carnitas tacos, and you're going to have red onions that are going to be pickled in vinegar, in apple cider vinegar. So you're going to have, I'm going to show you how to make the pickled onions, the red onions, and this is your apple cider vinegar, and you're actually going to cook it on the stove. So one thing you're going to do is you're going to have 1 tablespoon of sugar. So I've got that there. And 1.5 teaspoons of kosher salt. And so I've got that in there. And then you are going to put 1/2 cup of apple cider vinegar. And the idea is you're just going to heat it through, and so that the salt and sugar disintegrate. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the water. And the water is about 1/2 cup of water. So there's our 1/2 cup of water. We're just going to heat that up. Make sure that the sugar is melted. But the onion, you want to make sure that it's red onion and that it's cut real thin. Now this is the pickled onions. Where my family came was from central Mexico, near Mexico City, and so I never really saw pickled onions before, but in the Yucatan, I think it's very common to have your red onions pickled, and they do different types of recipes that have a special style to them that's different, and you'll see that just like in the United States, different parts of the country have different food. Every country has that. And so once you heat up your vinegar, you're going to pour it over your sliced onions. You're going to let it cool off, and once it's cooled, then you're going to put it in the refrigerator. And Danny recommends that you put it in the refrigerator overnight, but he says even if you don't have that long of a time, even if it's just in the refrigerator for an hour marinating, that will be good. So here is the pickled onions that I made, and so these are the ones that have been marinating a little over 2 hours now. So I can't wait to try them tomorrow when it's been overnight and see what the difference is. I bet he says it tastes better. So I'm just gonna stir this, and then I'm gonna get the tortillas ready because my carnitas are ready. So you can get just some corn tortillas, or if you prefer flour, you can have flour. I have some corn tortillas that I heated up, and normally you can heat your tortillas in the oven if you want. That's what he recommends. Or you can use a griddle and just heat them up that way. Or you can even, heat them up in the microwave if you wanted. The griddle is usually the most common and I think kind of the best way to do it. But I actually heated this up in the microwave. And so I am just going to go ahead and serve my carnitas into this little taco. So there's my carnitas. And then he recommends that you put some white onion on your taco, some cilantro, and that's something very common in Mexico, to have your cilantro and your white onion on your tacos, and they're even be mixed together as you're going to serve them, and then some type of salsa. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my pickled onions. And don't they look beautiful? They actually look really pretty. And then of course you squeeze your lime on there. And now that's the perfect carnita taco. And so Danny really talks about the love that he had for food and the food that his mother made. And so if you really want to have a fun read with some great recipes, I would highly recommend Trejo's Tacos. So thank you for joining me today. Have a great day and have fun with your cooking. Thanks.